Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Get Licensed to Build workshop. This is a free online workshop for those who want to get their California contractor's license. Our goal this morning is to go through all the parts of the license application and to give you practical tips to help you complete it correctly. And we want to give you every opportunity to demonstrate your experience and your qualifications in order to get your California contractor's license. We also help get ready for your licensing exams and give you a link to a video that shows you exactly what to expect on your test date. Today's webcast is presented by the Contractor State License Board, the government agency responsible for regulating the California construction industry. My name is Anna Rodriguez and I am an enforcement supervisor. Joining us today is Fode Garagoslo. He's a licensing supervisor. Good morning, Fode.
Good morning. CSLB is overseen by a 15-member board that directs administrative policy for our operations. Our board is made up of 10 public members, including 1 labor representative, 1 local building official, and 1 representative of a statewide senior citizen organization, and 5 contractors. Appointments are made by the governor and the state legislature.
Please note, CSLB test centers reopened in February and they have been closed since December due to COVID-19. Applicants will have to take safety precautions on test day. That includes wearing a mask and more. We'll go into those details a little bit later. If you're watching right now on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live and want to participate, you'll need to join us on WebEx. There's a banner with a link on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. This is also where you can download the presentation to follow along. The presentation file includes clickable bonus links that appear on the slides throughout this workshop. We are going to present a lot of information today, so don't worry if you don't get it all. We will archive this video of the workshop and put it on our YouTube channel so you can go back and watch it again if needed. To ask a question, use the Q&A feature, not the chat feature, on the bottom right of your screen. Make sure you send your questions to all panelists. Finally, we tend to get a lot of questions during these workshops on how to document your work experience and what credit you can get for your education or your military services. These questions are fine, but we would ask that you wait to send us those questions until after you see that part of the workshop, because we do answer that throughout the workshop. We will go through your questions at the end of our presentation. The presentation itself takes about 45 minutes.
The information obtained during the webcast is not, nor is intended to be legal advice. While this webcast contains general information, including legal guidelines for contractor license applications, it does not contain definitive statements of the law and may not reflect the most current legal developments in the construction industry. Such guidelines communicated or discussed during the webcast are for informational purposes only. If you have questions about the application of the law for specific situations, you should contact an attorney who is familiar with the California construction law or review the 2021 edition of the CSLB publication, California Contractors License Law and Reference Book. You can download it for free on CSLB website or purchase directly from the publisher LexisNexis. There are links for both at the bottom of the screen.
So here's a list of what we are going to cover today. We will take you through the process for applying for your California contractor's license. First, who needs a license? Why get a contractor's license? What are the minimum qualifications you'll need to get that license, and what credits you might qualify for? We're also going to talk about the different types of business entities, the different CSLB license classifications. Then we'll spend a lot of time giving you tips on how to fill out your application, including how to demonstrate your work experience to meet the minimum qualifications. We'll also talk about the fingerprint requirements for a criminal background check. We will help get you ready for the exam or exams you'll need to pass in order to get your license. And finally, the other things you'll need to have in place before you get your license issued, things like bond and insurance.
First, today, we will take a look at who needs a license. Here in California, a state contractor license is needed for all construction projects priced at $500 or more. That total includes both labor and materials. The law doesn't let you break down a project into $499 pieces. It's the entire project. Also, you cannot charge an hourly rate to get around the $500 threshold. If the hourly cost times the number of hours for the job totals $500 or more, you need a contractor's license. So what is the definition of a contractor? The definition comes from the state's Business and Professions Code. In this case, it's section 7026.1. We've got a link to that code at the top of the page if you download the presentation. I will read the entire code, but pay special attention to the part we underline. A contractor is any person, consultant to an owner building, firm, association, organization, partnership, business trust, corporation, or company who or which undertakes, offers to undertake, proposes to have the capacity to undertake, or submits a bid to construct any building or home improvement project or part thereof. In other words, you don't have to do the work to break the law. You must have a contractor's license just to advertise that you can do the construction work, or even to give a bid for a construction job if the bid totals $500 or more.
So you may be asking yourself why you should get a license. Here are a few good reasons. First, you can take pride in being a licensed professional. It shows that you've taken the steps to get licensed and that you are serious about your career choice. It also allows you to make valuable contributions to your local community. Unlicensed contractors must operate in the shadows and cannot help make their community a better place to live. Next, it allows you to get paid for the work that you do. There is a value to the work done by a licensed professional. Being licensed also gives you legal options if customers don't pay you. Unlicensed contractors do not have a legal right to take someone to court to get paid because the work required a license and they weren't licensed to do that work in the first place. Also, you would be able to use the mechanic lien laws. Next, you don't have to look over your shoulder with a fear of getting caught. Contracting without a valid California license can lead to misdemeanor charges. Those caught face a first offense sentence of up to 6 months in jail and/or a $5,000 fine, and potential administrative fines that can run anywhere between $200 and $15,000. Subsequent violations can result in an increased criminal penalty and fines. In addition, you may face felony charges if you contract without a license when one is required in a state or federally declared disaster area, or if you try to pass yourself off as a licensed contractor by illegally using somebody's license number. Remember, there are no educational requirements to get a license. Also, you do not have to go to a license preparation school to get your contractor's license.
So what do you need to get your license? First, it is important to understand that CSLB does not license individuals. We license companies or businesses, also called entities. Many entities are one-person operations, but know that every entity, even a one-person operation, must have a qualifier. That's someone who has the minimum experience and is responsible for the operations of the company. Here is the short list of minimum qualifications you will need. You must be at least 18 years old. You must have either a valid Social Security number or valid individual taxpayer identification number, ITIN. You can qualify the license in one of two ways. First, you can qualify the license by having at least 4 years experience within the last 10 years as a journey person, foreperson, supervising employee, or contractor in the trade being applied for. Or you can also get a qualifier for the license who has that required experience. We will spend a lot of time talking about how you can demonstrate your experience on your application in a few minutes.
It may be possible for you to substitute some of your education or your technical training and your apprenticeship training for some of the required experience. We tend to get a lot of questions on this. First, CSLB will not be able to prejudge your experience. Due to the number of applications we receive and process every month, we don't have enough staff time that would be needed in order to prejudge your experience. We can only review your documentation after you have applied for your license. Next, to get education credit, the coursework must be directly related to the work that you will be doing as a contractor. Your education cannot be substituted for more than 3 years or 36 months of the required experience, meaning you will need to have at least 1 year of practical experience if you get the full 36 months of education credit. To apply for education credit, you must provide CSLB written documentation. That means we need a copy of any apprenticeship completion certificates that you have, or get official technical schools or college transcripts. Get those transcripts sent to you. You do not want to open the envelope. You need to send it in sealed. Leave it sealed and include it with your CSLB application packet. Note, high school courses will not earn you any credit towards your contractor license.
If you're looking to get education credit to meet the 4 years or 48 months of experience, you will need to get your license. This is the most important slide of this entire workshop. This is the kind of credit you can expect to receive for your education. Note that for some areas, we are only giving you averages, or you will see that your credit will be determined on a case-by-case basis. We are not going to be able to give you any more guidance than what you see on this slide. So our best advice is do not rely on the combination of your experience and education credits to barely hit the 4-year experience mark. There is always the real possibility you will not get as much education credit as you were hoping. Let's go through the chart from the most credit you can get to the least. The most education credit you can get is for a bachelor's science degree in construction management. That degree will get you the full 36 months of credit. Next is master's or bachelor's degree in business or a law degree. Any one of those will get you 24 months of credit. An associate in science degree in construction management will get you 18 months credit. A bachelor's degree in some other major will get you an average of 18 months credit. An associate degree in a major beside construction management will get you an average of 6 months credit. Credit for individual college classes are given on case-by-case basis, usually with a maximum of 6 months credit. Apprenticeship completion certificates will get you 24 to 36 months, depending on the classification on the program. For example, a sheet metal worker apprenticeship gets you 24-month credit for the C20 HVAC and C43 sheet metal classifications only. A lineman apprenticeship gets you 36 months in C7 low voltage and C10 electrical classifications only. If you have transcripts for other technical training you have taken, you might be able to get some minimal credit as well. Again, don't use your education credit to try and squeak by the 4-year or 48-month requirement.
If you served in the military, some of that service might count as well. On the bottom of the page, you'll see a bonus link to our CSLB Military Application Assistance Program. You can learn more at that link. The license qualifier also must pass 2 different exams, both taken on the computer at one of our CSLB test centers. One exam is on the California business law, and the other will be in the specific trade covered by your license. We also have limited specialty licenses, which we'll discuss a little bit later. Those licenses only require that the qualifier take 1 exam, the law and business exam only. As we mentioned, the qualifier is the one who must take and pass the required exams or qualify for a waiver. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about our waivers, only to note that you might be able to request a waiver from taking 1 or both of the exams, but it has to be in very specific situations. We recommend that you look at the CSLB website for more information on those specific situations. We have included a bonus link here at the bottom of the page. The qualifier must also undergo the criminal background check. We will go more in depth on that in a few minutes. After the license is issued, the qualifier also must be in a position to exercise direct supervision and control of the company's operations. They are also responsible for all workmanship issues. It is also important to note here that if you're trying to get a B, general building contractor license, and you hire subcontractors to work under you, you are responsible as the project's prime contractor for the work that they do.
The next thing you are going to need to determine before applying for your license is which type of entity your business will be. There are 4 types. First is the sole ownership, where the owner or responsible managing employee may serve as the license qualifier. Just about 2/3 of the contracting businesses in California are sole ownerships. Second, a corporation, where either of the current officers designated as the responsible managing officer or responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. Just under 1/3 of our licenses are corporations. A distant third is a partnership, where either of the general partners or responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. That's 2% of our licenses. Finally, a limited liability company or LLC, where a responsible managing member, responsible managing manager, responsible managing officer, or responsible managing employee may serve as qualifier. About 1.5% of California construction companies are LLCs.
Now let's talk about license classifications. A contractor's license can include multiple classifications, although you must select one when first filling out your application. While there are more than 40 license classifications in California, they fall under 3 distinct categories. There is a bonus link to our classifications list at the bottom of this screen here. First, we have the Class A, or the general engineering contractors. These are the contractors who deal with fixed works that require specialized engineering knowledge and skill. A contractors are the ones that build projects such as freeways, skyscrapers, and dams. Today, there are just over 19,000 A contractors in the state. Next is our Class B, or general building contractors. This is the largest class of contractors in California, with more than 133,000. B contractors have a principal business dealing with any structure built, being built, or to be built that requires, as part of its construction, at least 2 unrelated building trades or crafts. In other words, a B contractor shouldn't take a prime contract for any project that just involves one trade other than framing or carpentry. There is no limitation on B contractors to stop them from taking on projects that only include framing or carpentry. The final classes are C, or specialty contractors. These licenses are for construction work that requires a special skill and whose principal contracting business involves the use of specialized building trades or crafts. Examples of this class would be our C10 electrical contractors, C20 HVAC contractors, C27 landscaping, C36 plumbing, C39 roofing, C46 solar contractors, and C53 swimming pool contractors. Those are just to name a few. There are also 30 limited specialty classes under the C61 classification. These include the C61/D49 Tree Service Limited Class. More than 209,000 contractors hold a C license in California.
Here are the 2 forms you will need. On the left is the license application. On the right is the certification of work experience. You can get these forms on the CSLB website. There is your bonus link on the left side of the page, so be sure to download this presentation. We will give you a closer look at the different sections of these forms a little later. Okay. Now let's break down the steps of application process. First, identify who will be the qualifier for your license. That person will be responsible for exercising direct supervision and control of the company. If you are using an RME or responsible managing employee as your qualifier, determine if he or she can qualify for an exam waiver. Be aware of companies you pay to connect you with a licensed qualifier. In some cases, these qualifiers are on a different part of the state and cannot exercise the direct supervision needed, or they aren't willing or maybe even don't understand their role as a qualifier. Next, make sure you complete the correct application. There are two options: application for original contractor license and application for original contractor license exam waiver, 7065. We have got links to both at the bottom of the page.
The next step is to determine your company name. Take a look at the application for examples. Some things to keep in mind. Your name cannot be misleading or imply that you qualify for a license classification other than what you're applying for. For example, if you're going to apply for a C36 plumbing license, you cannot have the company name of John Smith Plumbing Construction, Heating, and Drywall. Corporate and LLC names must match exactly the name that you have registered with the California Secretary of State's office. The name of everyone who is on your Secretary of State registration must also be listed on your CSLB application. You can also use what is called a DBA, which stands for doing business as. The main thing to remember here is that the DBA name cannot be misleading, and you must use that name in all advertising and on all of your contracts. Next, you'll want to get together certifications to support your work experience. You should do this even if you apply for an exam waiver. Feel free to use multiple pages if needed. Next, be sure to note that if you are a military veteran and would like to use your military service to meet some of the 4 years of experience qualifications. Also, your application may be expedited through our Military Application Assistance Program. We mentioned that a few minutes ago. There is a bonus link at the bottom of this screen here for more information on that program. To participate, you must have had an honorable discharge, and you want to be sure to include a copy of your military DD-214 paperwork showing your honorable discharge along with your application. The next couple of items are basic but very important. You want to proofread for any missing information. Make sure you have provided an answer to all necessary fields. Also, don't forget to sign and date your application after you print it. Finally, determine if you need a special accommodation to take your exams. If so, complete a request form and submit it with your application. We'll talk about the use of a translator a little bit later.
Next is a closer look at our fingerprint requirements, which are used for a criminal background check. This is a list of those who must submit a full set of fingerprints to CSLB, depending on the type of business entity. All applicants, each corporate officer, each partner, each owner, the responsible managing employee, all home improvement salespersons. If you are in California, you must submit fingerprint electronically with what's called live scan. You can get an updated list of live scan locations around California, broken down by county, on the Attorney General's website. We got a link here, or you can simply go to the Attorney General's website and search for live scan. You will also see we have a bonus link at the bottom of the screen to the fingerprint information page on our CSLB website. If you are out of a state, it's going to be tough for you to get us your fingerprints. That's because you must submit hard copies of them, the old-fashioned way. Those take anywhere between 3 and 6 months for the FBI and Department of Justice to process. When things settle down with COVID-19, you might want to consider traveling to California to get your electronic live scan done here.
So what happens if you do have a criminal conviction? CSLB may deny your license for the following reasons. First, if your conviction is substantially related to the duties, functions, and qualifications of a contractor. Also, if your conviction involves fraud or violent crimes. There are other factors CSLB can also consider. They are the nature and severity of the crimes, the amount of time that has passed since the conviction, and any evidence of rehabilitation that you submit to CSLB. CSLB evaluates felony criminal convictions within 7 years of the date of your application. So for applications filed this year, we would look back to 2014. For misdemeanor criminal convictions, we would look back 3 years of the application date, back to 2018. That's unless the convictions are for a violent felony, certain sexual crimes, or financial crimes related to construction. CSLB denies only 1% of the total applications that we receive based on criminal convictions. You'll also note the bonus link to our fingerprint information page at the bottom of the page.
Okay. Along with the education credits we talked about earlier, this next section is probably the most important of the entire workshop and the part of the application that causes the most headaches for applicants. It is how you demonstrate your work experience on your application. Remember, the license qualifier needs 4 years or 48 months of experience within the past 10 years in the classification for which he or she is applying. That means at least 4 years of experience since 2011. The experience must be at no less than a journey level or a foreman, supervising employee, contractor, or owner builder. A journeyman is defined as an experienced worker who is fully qualified as opposed to a trainee and can perform trade without supervision, or one who has completed an apprenticeship program.
There's a limited amount of space on the application to show your certified work experience, so feel free to use additional pages if needed, and you simply attach them at the end of the work experience form. Use as many certifications of work experience forms as you need to prove the required 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. Use a different form for each certifier. Be as accurate as possible. Make sure the person certifying your work describes the actual work you performed and the dates in which you performed them. We will now be providing some examples of both good and unacceptable descriptions to demonstrate your work experience. Do not copy and paste this information directly into your application. These are just examples.
At the top of this chart is the classification and type of experience you're trying to demonstrate. This first example is journey person experience. The overall theme we will keep repeating is the more specific the description, the better. The work experience form should be completed by your certifier, someone who has knowledge and observed your work experience for the classification you're applying for. That person does not have to be a licensed contractor.
So our first example here is for the Class B general building contractor. The best type of description your certifier would use for a journey person experience is to be specific. Journey person experience must include hands-on work and should look something like this. Bob performed rough and finished carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough out plumbing and electrical, interior, exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. An unacceptable description would be something more generic like this: residential general building trades. For four-person experience, the description must include some hands-on work and/or supervisory work. Here's an example of the best type of description. Bob oversaw other staff at job site performing rough and finished carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough out plumbing and electrical, interior exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. Again, an unacceptable description would be something more generic like this: residential general building trades. For supervisory employee experience, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. An example is, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Bob supervised rough and finished carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough out plumbing and electrical, interior exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. Again, something unacceptable would be something generic like this: residential general building trades. For out-of-state contractor experience, the description must include examples of work done that was either out of state, military on federal land, or work for a government entity. Applicants can qualify as a journey person, foreperson, or a supervisory employee. Be specific about your duties and your employment circumstances. Our next example is for the C-27 landscaping contractor. First, for experience at the journeyman level. An unacceptable explanation. The best type of description for this would be Jane performed. Can we get the slide, please? The best type of description would be Jane performed landscape construction, maintenance, and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete no strips, and pathways and tree pruning. An unacceptable explanation would be gardening, yard maintenance, planting. For a C-27 landscaping contractor, the best work experience description for a foreperson would be something like this. Jane oversaw other staff at job site performing landscape construction, maintenance and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. An unacceptable description would be something like this. Gardening, yard maintenance, planting. So you can see what we want is for you to be more descriptive. For a C-27 supervising employee, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. The best description would be, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Jane supervised landscape construction, maintenance of installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips, and pathways and tree pruning. Unacceptable here for the supervising employee would be something like this. Gardening, yard maintenance, planting. Finally, for out-of-state contractors, the same guidance that we showed you for the general building contractors would apply. Be sure to include examples of your out-of-state work, as well as work done for the military, on federal lands, or for a government entity. Be sure to be specific when you describe the duties and your employment circumstances. By law, CSLB must randomly review and verify all of the information provided on at least 3% of the applications that we receive. Our next 3 slides run down the acceptable documentation that you can use to support your work experience in the event that your application is selected and you are asked to provide additional documentation. Remember, this supporting documentation should not be mailed in with your application. This is only going to be provided if CSLB staff request this information from you. On the lower right of the screen, you'll see a link to this publication on our website, along with additional information on experience documentation. If you look at the chart, you can see the first column is for documents you can use if you're self-employed. The first one is employed by a contractor. The second column is for documenting your experience if you were self-employed. The third column is for documentation that you can use if you're applying for a Class B general building contractor license and you need to use owner-builder experience to meet that experience requirement. These are all the documents that we would approve. Here's the next page of acceptable documentation. Again, you can click on the link to view and print the entire publication. Here's the final page of the acceptable documentation. If you do not have this information readily available, you may want to begin to gather it now, just in case you are asked to provide this information in the future. Remember, you're trying to demonstrate that you have at least 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. CSLB staff may contact the certifier of the work experience or other parties just to verify the information.
One other note, CSLB gets more than 1,000 applications a month, so our application processing staff has seen it all. We have 2 pieces of advice for you. First, don't cut and paste from this presentation. Also, don't try to get around having to take a trade test by applying for multiple subcategories under the 61 limited specialty classification. Okay. That's the content you will need to fill out your application. Before getting it to CSLB, double check to make sure you did not miss anything. Be sure to sign and date it as well. And don't forget to include the all-important $330 application fee. You will pay the $200 initial licensing fee after you pass your exam or exams. Then put your application packet in the mail to CSLB, hand-delivered to one of our public counters. We have got a bonus link at the bottom of the screen with our office locations.
Okay, now that we have gone through the information you're going to need to include, here's a closer look at the application itself so you can see where the information goes. This is section 1 of our application. Section 1 is where you will list the business name. Remember, when selecting a business name, make sure the name that you have selected is compatible with the classification and the entity that you are applying for, and that it is not misleading. If your business name is a corporation or an LLC, you will need to make sure that the name you provide in this section here matches exactly the business name that you have registered with the Secretary of State. In line 2 is where you will indicate what classification you are applying for. The mailing address and phone number that you list here on line 3A and 3C will be made public on CSLB's website once you are licensed. Here is section 2. In section 2, you will select your business entity. If you're applying for a corporation or an LLC, you will need to provide your registration number provided to you by the Secretary of State. Make sure to pay extra attention to the instructions in this section pertaining to the entity for which you are applying. In section 3 is where you will list the qualifiers information. Remember, the qualifier is a person that meets the experience requirements. This is a person that will be responsible for the direct supervision and control of the construction operations. The qualifier is also the person who takes the examinations. On line 6, you will list any previous or current license numbers you've held. You will also need to list the percentage of the new business owned by the qualifier. For example, if you're the only person on the license that will be listed, you're going to enter 100% here. On line 7, you will need to indicate what position will be held by the qualifier. Each entity has different personnel requirements, so you will need to make sure that you have listed all positions depending on the entity that you're selecting. You can find more information on this on page 2 through 4 of our application instructions. Line number 8 is where you will sign and date your application. Next is section 4, the personnel full legal names and addresses. Here's where you will list the personnel information for all remaining personnel that will be listed on your license. For example, if you are applying for a corporation, you will need to indicate who will be the responsible managing officer or employee, the president, the secretary, and the treasurer. Again, more information can be found on this on page 4 of our application instructions. If you will have more than 4 people on your license, you can make additional copies of this page and include them with your application. For a corporation or an LLC, you will want to make sure that all personnel that you have listed with the Secretary of State is listed here in this section. All personnel that will be listed on the license must also sign the application here in section 4. Section 5 is a series of yes or no questions, so we're not going to cover those here. Section 6 is the qualifier education, apprenticeship, licensure, or military section. You may be granted credit towards the 4 years experience requirement based on your education. Question number 17 asks you if you have completed an educational or apprenticeship program. You will need to submit official sealed transcripts if you would like to be considered for this credit. If you attend formal training or an apprenticeship program, you will need to provide a certificate of completion. Get those sealed transcripts sent to you, then include it with your application packet. Do not have the program send the transcripts directly to CSLB. You don't want to take a chance in case we're not able to match them up with your application. CSLB may grant you up to 3 years of credit based on your education. This credit is not on a year-to-year basis, meaning if you have a 2-year college degree, you won't necessarily be granted 2 years of credit towards your experience requirement. You may qualify for this credit regardless of when you completed your education. The 10-year time frame does not apply to education. You may also apply for this credit even if your education wasn't received in this country. If your degree is in any other language than English, it must be translated. Now let's talk about the certification of work experience. Part 1 must be filled out by you, the applicant. Here you will list the information for your employer where you gained your experience. If you were self-employed when you gained your experience, please make sure you mark the box in line number 2. If you are applying for a B general construction license and will be using experience obtained while working on your own property, make sure to mark the box here in line number 4. Part number 2 is going to be filled out by the certifier that you choose. In this section, the certifier must include the dates in which you obtained your experience. They must also select if you were working on a part-time or a full-time basis. Keep in mind that if you are working on a part-time basis, you're only going to receive 50% of the credit for the time frame. So you want to make sure that you'll have 8 years of experience within the last 10 years to meet that 4-year requirement. On line number 6, your certifier will need to list the duties that you performed or supervised that are considered critical for the classification that you are applying for. You can read a description of critical duties in CSLB's description classification booklet available on our website. Do not copy and paste the description from our booklet. This is only to give you an idea of what CSLB considers to be critical duties for each of our classifications. Your certifier should complete the section in their own words, and they should be as complete and accurate as possible. Now, the final part of the work experience certificate is to be completed by your certifier as well. They need to list their relationship to you, mark the correct box, and also provide their contact information. Lastly, they will need to sign and date the certification. The next form we're going to discuss is our Owner Builder B General Building Construction Project Experience form. This form only needs to be completed if you're applying for a B General Construction License and you want to receive experience credit for working on projects of your own property. A separate form is required for each project on the property. The experience must be verifiable through building permits, final inspection, or some other documentation. You will need to list the building permit number here on line number 6. On line number 7, you will need to provide the scope of the project. In boxes 8 through 10 is where you're going to provide detailed information about the project itself. Question number 11 asks if other general construction contractors worked on the project and what trades did they perform. Remember, this information needs to be as complete and accurate as possible.
With all the information Anna just covered, this is a good time to remind you that we are recording this workshop. We will post a video on our YouTube channel so you can go back, rewatch in case there is anything you missed. Okay, so you've got your application submitted. How do you check the status of that application? Here are 2 resources. First is the secure check. You will need your application fee number and contractor PIN number to get an update. We will send you that information after we receive, accept, and post your completed application. The second way to check is to look online at our processing times. Each week, we update our website with the date we receive the paperwork for a specific process. So look for the date being worked on and know that date shown is after the date we likely received your paperwork. It's likely we are busy working on your application. As you can imagine, CSLB receives hundreds, if not thousands of documents every day, and we process them in order they are received. So be sure to take the extra time getting the application right so we don't have to send it back to you to correct and then have to start the processing process again. When our application has been accepted, CSLB will send you a notice to appear for examination and a study guide. You should get your exam notice at least 3 weeks prior to exam day. CSLB test centers have recently reopened since being closed for COVID-19. CSLB has 7 test centers throughout California and encourages candidates to take their exams at the nearest test center.
If you're an applicant whose first language isn't English and you don't feel confident in taking your exams in English, we do allow you to use a translator. The translator who you provide simply reads the exam questions. Question number 16 on the application asks if you need to use a translator to complete this examination. The translator has to be pre-approved by CSLB in advance. You cannot just show up on the day of your examination to the test center with someone to translate the exam for you. When you get an exam date, make sure you do not miss it. If you fail to appear for your exam, you will have to pay a non-refundable $60 fee to reschedule your exam. That fee may be waived once with documented evidence of a medical emergency or other circumstance beyond your control. Also, we have study guides available for each of our exams. Included in each one of these study guides, you will find a list of sections and topics covered by each exam. They also include a couple of sample questions. It also includes a section on how each section of the exam is going to be weighted. And it also recommends resource materials that you can begin to study now to prepare for your examination. These study guides are available online on our website right now. There's a bonus link here at the bottom of our page to the study guides.
Here is a quick look at 2 of those study exams. The first is the Law and Business exam, which all qualifiers must take, no matter which license classification, including the D Series Limited classes. You can see the guide contains a breakdown of examination topics, some test strategies, sample questions, and resources that were used to help create that exam. You will see same format on the B General Building Study Guide. We would recommend that you really pay attention to the exam content here, especially how we have broken down what percentage of questions there will be on each of the 5 topics on the exam. You will also note on the lower right of both of these 2 slides, you will see bonus links to the actual study guide, as well as a link to the complete list of study guides.
Again, our test centers recently reopened, so we do have COVID-19 procedures in place for applicants on test day. Here they are. Plan to arrive at least 15 minutes early for your exam. Give yourself extra time to get checked in. You must wear a face mask or other face covering. If you appear ill, you will have to reschedule your exam for at least 5 days later at no additional charge. And you will not be admitted into the test center more than 15 minutes prior to your exam time. We've also produced a short video, What to Expect on Test Date, that you can watch on our YouTube channel. The link is at the bottom of your screen.
You will take your exam on a touchscreen computer. Before starting, you will see an on-screen tutorial that will take you through the process. The exam itself consists of multiple choice questions. You will also see a space on each question where you can, if you want, submit a comment about that question. You will get 3.5 hours to complete each exam. Don't arrive late, or that may reduce the amount of time you get to complete your exam. You will get your results at the end of the exam. If you don't pass the exam, you will not be allowed to review the questions you missed, but you will get a statement showing how you did on each section of the exam. You can reschedule the exam as many times as you need to within the 18 months period, as long as you pay the non-refundable $60 rescheduling fee each time.
So you may be asking yourself, once you pass the exam, what's going to happen next? Well, first, you'll need to pay a $200 fee for your initial licensing fee, which will be good for 2 years. You'll also need to complete an online asbestos open book exam. Plus, you'll need to file your required $15,000 contractor surety bond, possibly some other bonds depending on what type of business entity you have selected. You'll also need to get your required insurance policy. If you've got employees, you'll need to get workers' compensation insurance. If you're going to be an LLC, you'll also need liability insurance. See our website for more information on those. Please note that your insurance company or broker can submit your insurance information to CSLB directly on our website. If you are not going to have employees, then you must file a workers' compensation exemption form with CSLB. You can do that online as well.
In about 5 to 10 business days, CSLB will send you a wall certificate and plastic pocket license card. Display the wall certificate in your main office or chief place of business. Carry your pocket card with you, especially in situations where you are going to solicit business, talk to potential customers, or sign contracts. We encourage consumers to ask you to see your pocket license. If you are going to have salesperson working for you, be sure to get them registered as a home improvement salesperson with CSLB. Check our website for more on how to do that. Your license will be good for 2 years. It will expire on the last day of the month when it was issued. For example, a license issued today, March 5th, 2021, will expire on March 31st, 2023. Be sure to put that expiration date on your calendar, in your phone, anywhere you need, so you won't forget it. CSLB will send you a renewal notice in the mail approximately 60 days before it expires, but ultimately it is your responsibility to renew your license on time.
Here are a couple of other important deadlines to keep in mind. First, notify CSLB within 30 days if you move or change your business address. Your renewal notice will be sent to the address of record that we have on file. If you're not there anymore, you're probably not going to get it. The Postal Service does not forward state government mail. Finally, notify CSLB within 30 days of all changes to personnel on your license, especially when it involves the qualifier of the license.
Once you get your license and get to work, you might want to hire someone as a salesperson to solicit, sell, negotiate home improvement contracts on your behalf outside of your place of business. These people are called home improvement salesperson, or HIS. Without a home improvement salesperson, the official personnel of record on a license are the only ones that can solicit, sell, negotiate, or execute a contract. That includes individual contractors, licensed qualifiers, partners, corporation officers, and LLC responsible managing officers, members, managers, or employees. A HIS can work for more than one contractor. The license must notify CSLB in writing when they either associate or disassociate an home improvement salesperson with their license.
There are a couple of exceptions here. First are those who only schedule appointments for the contractor or the registered HIS. Bona fide service and repair people, the folks that you call out for repairs, like things like repairing your air conditioning, your heating, or your plumbing. Those service and repair people are limited to the work that was initially requested by the buyer or the homeowner. For example, if your AC goes out and you call an HVAC company to come out, the service person does not have to be a registered salesperson. But if they go beyond the repair itself and then they want to sell you a new HVAC system, then they have to be a registered HIS. Also, don't employ any unregistered salesperson. That subjects you to administrative discipline, and the salesperson might get a citation or possibly even a criminal misdemeanor. So we got a bonus link here at the bottom of the page if you want to look into the actual code section of law for more information. Okay, so that is our presentation. Now it's time for questions and answers. So we'll go ahead and start answering some of the questions. Okay. First question. I'm a journeyman in Colorado. I have all the hours for my master's here, but I have to move to California. Would I be able to test for the C10 right away, Or would I have to test for the general electrician's license and spend another 4 years at a company? I have been in business here in Colorado for almost 9 years as an electrical contracting business company and would like to be able to relocate my business to California. Okay, so if you, what the requirement for the license is you have to prove that you have 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. It looks like you have 9 years of experience. So as long as 4 of those years of experience were within the last 10 years, you would be able to apply for a license. Next says, hi, we own a company. There's no question there. We would like to get our GC business license. What's the easiest for that? So we kind of, the requirements for the B license, general construction B license, are the same for all of our licenses. You need 4 years within the last 10 years. So as long as you have 4 years within the last 10 years, you would be able to qualify. Next question. If I have a bachelor's, not business or CM, and additionally have technical training, could they both go towards my 48-month requirement if I also have a year of experience? So, FODE, it says, if I have a bachelor's, not in business, and additionally have technical training, could they both go toward my 48-month requirement?
We will take the one that gives you the most.
Mm-hmm. So they can't be combined. They'll look at your, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll look at your education and give you the most credit that they can. Next question, how can I download this presentation? So you can go to our website, www.cslb.ca.gov, and you'll be able to download it there. We also have a YouTube channel. We are recording this, so it will be on our YouTube channel and you can watch it later. It says, I have an AAS in construction electrician from an accredited community college in Colorado. I believe this goes with the question we received before. As long as you have 4 years of 4 years of combined education and experience, it looks like you have 9 years of hands-on experience, you would be able to apply. I am seeking for a license for C28. Currently have a locksmith license. Would I need to get fingerprinted again? Would he need to get
yes, if you apply, since you don't have a license with actually CSLB, if it's the first time you're applying, then yes, you have to get fingerprinted.
Is the work experience my work experience or the qualifiers? Can I use multiple sources if I did jobs with multiple contractors? Okay, so the qualifier is the person with the experience, and that is the person who will also take the examination. So if, let's say if you're going to be the only one on the license, then you are going to be the qualifier, and you would list the experience. For your certifier would list your experience. So the experience has to be for you. Whoever is qualifying that license has to have 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. And yes, not one contractor has to be able to certify the 4 years. If you need, let's say you need 4 contractors to certify your 4 years, 1 for each year, you can make copies. You can make multiple copies of that page. As long as the 48 months don't overlap, you would get 48 months credit. We are looking for 48 months within the last 10 years. Can I use multiple sources if I did jobs with multiple contractors? Yes, you can. If the RME is already a licensed B general contractor, do I still fill out the original contractor license application and take the exam? So if they have an RME who already has a B general contractor license, do they fill out the original contract license application?
If they already hold the classification, they can submit the original contractor license application exam waiver. exam waiver, and then they don't have to retake the exam.